Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today I am diving into What If Dale Survived? This is part 8, which will be covering season 9 of The Walking Dead show. So if you're not caught up, get caught up now using the link in the description and comment section. But with that being said, it's been a really long time, so let's get straight into the video. A year and a half has passed since the defeat of Negan and the Saviors, and by this point, Alexandria has been rebuilt, and with it, along with the Kingdom, and the Hilltop, and the Sanctuary, they now live in peace. The group that went on the supply run in episode 1 is going to be the same, but with Carl there as well. Speaking of Carl, since he's alive, he and Enid would both be in a relationship together. The two clearly had feelings for each other throughout the show, so it would be pretty obvious this would happen. Dale would be inside his home with Jesse and Sam, and it would be revealed that Dale and Jesse had actually gotten married over this time. As for Maggie, she still would have been the leader of the Hilltop, so that's pretty cool. But back to the supply run. Because Carl is there, he's going to be able to kill the walkers that attack Ken, so he never gets bitten. And because of that, he also doesn't get kicked by the horse, so he survives. This also means that Gregory wouldn't ever convince Earl to attack Maggie, since his son is fine and he has no reason to. So I think instead, Gregory would just get Maggie alone to try to stab her, but she would notice and stop him. This leads to him still being hanged like in the show, and Earl stays a free man. When one of the saviors, Justin, takes extra water, Henry would make him drop it. This makes Justin want to attack Henry, but Morales would step in the way. The two fight briefly before Justin throws sand in his eyes, leading to Daryl jumping in and fighting like he did in the show. Rick then arrives to break it up and things return to normal. Because of the walker trouble the group was having lately, the logs would still fall on Aaron's arm, crushing it. This forces the group to amputate the arm, forcing him to get a cool metal one like they did in the show. Justin would then be exiled later that night, and in the next episode, Rick would be back at Alexandria. He would be walking and would see Dale, Jesse, and Sam all living peacefully. Dale is just about to start his guard shift duty, and so he waves hello to Rick and makes sure that he's doing okay. Carl and Michonne greet him, and as does Judith, who calls him Grandpa. Dale tells the girl that he hopes she has a good day, and Rick explains what's up with the bridge. Basically, the rest of the episode is going to go the same though. The murder mystery ends up in Cindy getting a revenge on Arat, and Maggie and Daryl let it happen. When Daryl stops Rick from going back to Alexandria, the two get stuck in a hole, but the focus wouldn't be so much on Carl's death. This is because Carl is alive, so rather, his idea that killing people was pointless. At the end of episode 5, Carl, Dale, and the others pull up to Rick right before he blows up the bridge, leading to Jadis taking him into the helicopter. Of course, this would sadden everyone to an immeasurable degree, especially Michonne and Carl. The 6-year time skip would then happen, but before we talk about our main group, I need to tell you guys what happened to Gareth and Martin after part 6. If you remember, during the infestation of walkers in Alexandria, Gareth was taken away by Martin outside the walls. I kinda just left it at that, so now let's go ahead and follow up and see what happened to them. Martin had dragged Gareth around for a while, but he managed to escape. Martin didn't rest when he knew that he left, and so he chased him endlessly. Gareth could barely stop without seeing his shadow or hearing his footsteps, so he had to constantly run. He had been doing this for days, but one day, Martin had finally caught up to him face to face. He tried to kill Gareth for betraying him, but Gareth fought Martin off and barely knocked him unconscious with a weapon he found. But being out there for so long with nobody else to rely on and no time to get food, he was hungry. Gareth wanted to look for more, but Martin would wake up soon, as Gareth's attack wasn't really that strong. He was weak after not eating, so even if he killed Martin here and ran off to get food, he probably wouldn't make it to find any. And so he did what he knew best. He made a fire, cooked, and ate Martin's leg. This wasn't something he wanted to do, but he had to. He would have died of hunger, or Martin would have woken up and killed him. So after he had finished eating, he put Martin down with the weapon he had. Gareth would then make his way back to Alexandria, but he had been much too focused on running from Martin. So much that he hadn't even kept track of where he was going, and with walkers being a constant threat, Gareth would struggle to get back. Even after he felt like he was making some ground, he'd get attacked by walkers and would have to escape. Plus, he'd also need to find food, so this would lead to Gareth having to find places to hunt, or just find food. So basically, there's very little hope of him ever making it back to Alexandria. He kind of goes insane out in the wild alone, and he would be regressing back to his old ways. Dale had made an impact on him to be merciful and not eat people, but he's already had to break that second rule out there. The world without a group is a cruel place, and it would just keep throwing more problems Gareth's way. He would slowly become a worse person like he was back in the old days of Terminus. Years would pass, and he would just be roaming forests and empty towns trying to do whatever it takes to survive. At some point, he would stumble upon his saving grace: the Whisperers. Alpha and the others allow for him to join their pack, and he would be trained with herds and would be even less merciful than before. So he starts off regressing, and this is only making things worse. However, it does lead to Gareth living a happier life. So over the next couple of years, Gareth would roll with the Whisperers as one of the higher figures. This means that he would take the role of Gamma, since Mary hasn't yet earned that role. But that is just about all we can cover for him without getting into the Whisperer arc directly, so let's just go ahead and get into the Whisperer arc now. So after the 6 years, our main communities would still have contact issues like they did in the show. This time we would have Carl and Dale on the Alexandria Council trying to push Michonne to open the gates more. By the way, Carl and Enid are no longer together. This is because after his father's death, Carl became sad and had to focus on helping Alexandria, so going to the hilltop wasn't really an option. Carl would have similar talks to Negan that Gabriel does, as he wants to try and redeem him. It's interesting because in the show, Rick wanted to spare Negan because of Carl, but here, Carl needs to make sure that Negan is redeemed to make everything his father built worth it. So it's kind of a role reversal here. Because of this, Carl would not leave the door unlocked, so Negan isn't escaping. This means the whole subplot of Negan and Judith doesn't occur here. Going back to the hilltop, since Ken is alive, Earl isn't going to be injured from smithing, and would consider retiring soon. Upon hearing the news of the kingdom's current situation, both Carl and Dale want to join the fair to help them. When Tara and Earl head out with their group, Ken would go as well, which means that it's going to be less of a struggle. In episode 14, we'd get the same flashback storyline with Michonne, but Carl would be with her and Daryl, and trying to find Judith. This means he would be branded with the X on his back as well. In the present, Judith definitely wouldn't be able to sneak out of Alexandria, as either Carl or Dale would see her and stop her. This lets Michonne have her talk with Judith much earlier. Dale, Jesse, and Sam go to the festival, and Sam would quickly become friends with Henry, since they're both about the same age. Rather than Gabriel signing Ezekiel's treaty, it would be Carl, since he's basically the second leader to Alexandria after Michonne. A nice moment would also occur where Sam starts to talk and bond with Addie from the hilltop. This time, instead of only Alpha sneaking into the hilltop, Gareth would go with her. This is because he knows some of the people here, and if things get rough, he can use their weaknesses. The two would pose as a couple wearing clothes to make them look less suspicious. The two are eventually noticed by Dale, who greets them. This makes Gareth sort of freeze up, as Dale was very influential to him. So this kind of caught him off guard seeing him again. It's dark outside, so thankfully Gareth's face is harder to see for Dale. Plus, it's been about 8 years since Dale last saw him, and he doesn't look the same as he did then. Dale asks who they are, and Alpha would answer that their names are Debbie and Joseph. They're from Alexandria, but Dale replies that he doesn't know anywhere named that. But the man replies that he doesn't know anyone there named that. Alpha would begin to get a bit shaky, telling him that she doesn't go out much, to which Dale would insist that he's met everyone there. He's had a meal with all the people who live in Alexandria just to make sure they're doing well. At this point, Alpha gets defensive and decides to pull a knife, since she knew that she was going to kill people anyway. But Dale would react and hold it back briefly. Just as she was beginning to overpower him, she would be hit in the side by a rock. This came from Sam, and now that she was off guard, Dale proceeded to knock the knife out of her hand and pull out his rifle. But Alpha recovered and punched Dale, knocking the old man to the ground. She then proceeds to try and grab the knife, but Dale kicks it away before going unconscious. A fall straight to the concrete would definitely not be good for his health. I mean, he is in his 70s now. Gareth was shocked at what just happened and felt kind of bad for his old friend Dale. At this point, Sam picked up the knife, but Alpha pulled out her shotgun and aimed it at him, telling the boy to drop the knife or she'd shoot. Sam was now forced to comply, and so Alpha walked over to him, but she would hear someone running in their direction. Gareth turned around and pulled the knife to the person running toward them, causing them to stop. It was Jesse. Alpha would tell Gareth that he did a good job, and then would continue approaching Sam. Jesse tells her not to touch him, but Alpha picks up the knife and slowly creeps toward him. Seeing this, Jesse begins to fight off Gareth, and she is able to use the knife she brought to give Gareth a hard time, leaving a minor cut or two on him. But he is too strong and ends up stabbing Jesse in the stomach. She falls to the ground, saying Sam's name as she slowly dies. Gareth then began to remember Sam as the boy Dale had cared for, as he didn't recognize him due to his current age. As Alpha finally reached Sam, who is now crying, Gareth told her that they've wasted too much time. They need to get Lydia and go like they were planning to. A dead woman, a beaten old man, and a crying boy is enough to scare the people here. Alpha accepts this, reluctantly letting Sam go. But before she goes, she whispers to him, "Let this be a lesson to you, boy." The two whisperers then go off, but Lydia doesn't want to go with Alpha. This causes Alpha and Gareth to flee, and Lydia would find Sam crying over Dale and Jesse. Lydia calls for help, and everyone would begin to check out what is going on. They get help for Dale and comfort Sam, and the old man is able to recover, but he awakes to the bad news of his wife being murdered. Sam knew who Alpha was, so he was aware that it was her, and Lydia knew the man due to him spending years with the Whisperers. It was Gareth. This name shocked Dale, and he was ruined after hearing that. He was the one who let Gareth go all those years ago, and now he's killed his wife. But that's not all. Soon after, the group would find the heads of many of their people stuck on stakes. This included Tara, Enid, Henry, the leader of the Highwaymen, and Ken's mom. All of this went on to scare our group and motivate them to do more. Dale had a strong connection to Tara after years of being in the same group. Both Dale and Sam grieved over Jesse's death, and so she would be a key factor in their motivation as well. Carl is also furious due to Tara and Enid's deaths. There's also Ken, whose mother died, but I think he'd kind of take a back seat like his father after this. Now that Dale has seen his own limits, he and Sam will be doing their absolute best to keep their home safe. Sam is going to be sticking by Lydia's side during the next couple of months, so when the group goes out on the trip through the snow, he'd be there as well. Sam would stop Lydia from getting herself bitten by a walker, and would be trying to bond with her during this time. But after just losing Henry, it would be quite hard for Lydia to open up at all. By the way, Sam is basically 17 or 18 at this point, so if he wanted to, he could go. And Dale can't really do anything because he's old. So he'd be much more likely to die in the bad snowstorm, so he decides not to go. Lydia would break off from the group once again, and Sam would quickly follow her. Carol goes out to make sure that they're okay and convinces Lydia to come back to the group. Eventually, they make it to the hilltop and split, with our main group going home to Alexandria. There, Judith and RJ would both hug Michonne and Carl, and the really nice snowball fight scene would still happen. It would see Lydia joining in too, with Sam also being happy to see her join the fold. Both Michonne and Carl thank Negan for saving Judith in the snowstorm, and I honestly think Dale would be thinking Negan's redemption was on its way. But at the same time, that's what he thought about Gareth, and now look what he's done. So Dale does have some doubt, and he's worried about the future. But he isn't the only one doubting this. Sam remembered that Dale spared Gareth all that time ago, and now his mother is dead because of it. He now begins to doubt Dale's ways. But since that's the end of Season 9, we're going to go ahead and call that a wrap here. There weren't really that many changes here, since Season 9 hardly focuses on Alexandria. But Season 10 does hold a bit more in store, so I hope you guys enjoy that in the next part. But as always, tell me if you liked this part, tell me what you think will happen next, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.